Imagine the scene. General Motors suddenly announces the elimination of 14,000 jobs. Yes, 14,000, and the closure of 5 factories in the United States. It sounds like the plot of a dramatic series, but this is not fiction. As the shock sets in, Trump arrives, brandishing a 200% tariff, a theatrical gesture worthy of a reality TV superhero, but far from being one. This is not America first, it's America shocked, because the next move by GM turned all the codes upside down. The company simply turned its back on Trump's protectionist vision. Worse, it exposed it. While the president continued to talk about a trade war, GM made a bold choice. A choice that left Trump, usually so loud, strangely silent. An icon of American industry, GM suddenly reversed the narrative. It cut its workforce, closed sites across the entire country. Not only is it a disaster in terms of image, but it's a total repudiation of Trump's economic playbook. It's as if the president just lost his favorite toy. Frustrated, confused, he looks for someone to blame. But here's the real question. How did GM manage to unseat him to such an extent? Rather than betting on Trump's America, GM gambled on the world. A massive bet on electric vehicles, a sector that Trump struggles to acknowledge. $20 billion invested in innovation, research, and the future. While Trump tweets, GM builds tomorrow. Trump did not take it lying down. True to his style, he retaliated with a barrage of tweets and a spectacular 200% tariff, a dramatic move designed for the cameras as if he hoped to boost ratings. But this time, the show went wrong. The markets did not applaud. On the contrary, GM's shares plummeted, investors panicked, and Wall Street found itself in chaos akin to a live broadcast going off the rails during prime time. GM's shares dropped by 3% before almost immediately rebounding. Why? Because while Trump was ranting on social media, GM was quietly raking in colossal profits internationally. In 2024, the firm generated over $32 billion in profits outside the United States. GM adapts to the trade war and profits from it. This is where the line between amateur and strategist becomes clear. GM had anticipated. For years it had been building a global strategy. Because relying on a single market, especially when that market attacks its own trade partners, is madness. And while Trump was threatening, GM was diversifying. In 2024, more than 40% of its production was carried out outside the American territory. It invested $1 billion to expand its operations in China and India, areas spared by Trump's tariffs. This is not betrayal, it's strategy. While Trump looks for scapegoats, GM is looking far ahead. While Trump stands firm on his positions, a reality is becoming evident. The American automotive industry is faltering. Analysts are unequivocal. Soon, fewer than 2 million new cars could be sold in the United States. A real wake-up call. And that's not all. Asian giants Hyundai, Toyota, and Nissan are not sitting idly by. To avoid the costs of American tariffs, they are moving their production abroad. Today, Hyundai and Toyota manufacture more than half of their vehicles outside the American territory. GM follows the same logic. $5 billion invested in Mexico for electric vehicle production. Trump clings to his slogan, America First, like a series in which he is the hero. But GM, Hyundai, and Toyota have already moved on to the next season. And the observation is harsh. Trump's trade policy increasingly resembles a plane plunging into a hurricane. Obsolete. Detached from reality. Meanwhile, GM is building a global electric, efficient automotive industry, focused on the future. And it's not China that will say otherwise. While Trump wages his tariff battles, Beijing is accelerating. China is increasing its battery production, investing massively in technologies, and is heading straight towards global leadership in electric vehicles. And if you thought GM's move was the most spectacular, wait to see what Ford is preparing. Ford didn't shout, it didn't negotiate, it didn't hold a press conference. It simply withdrew. 2,000 jobs cut, millions of dollars redirected. All without a word. No drama, just business. But this departure is a slap in the face, a dramatic exit. For over a century, Ford was the beating heart of Michigan, the local hero of the working class. The production of the Focus, the C-Max, and even some electric Rangers is stopping on American soil. Why? Because the economic storm triggered by tariffs has become too violent. The price of steel is skyrocketing, aluminum is becoming a luxury product, and lithium is climbing by more than 300% between 2020 and 2024. Add to that an undeniable fact: 80% of the world's lithium is refined in China. As a result, building an electric vehicle in the United States now costs 25% more than abroad. It's not a betrayal, it's a strategic retreat, a matter of survival. And it's not just a war between manufacturers, it's a war between two systems. On one side, Ford, bogged down in its aging factories, its unions, and its logistical burdens. On the other side, Tesla, which is reinventing everything. Production, distribution, even the AI of the vehicles. No dealership, no bureaucracy. Just an app and your car is at the door. In response to this revolution, Ford has countered. And Ford, the T3 project, a total transformation. $50 billion invested. Massive partnerships to develop solid-state batteries. Ultra-automated assembly lines, where 90% of the work is done by robots. Batteries capable of covering 1 million kilometers. Cars delivered like Amazon packages. Ford is no longer just building cars. It is shaping a new industrial model. And when the critics came, Trump did what he does best. Accused. He cried betrayal, threatened with taxes, mentioned blacklists. But Ford did not flinch. No detour, no explanation. Just this chilling phrase from the CEO, Jim Farley. Would you prefer to lose 2,000 jobs today or 20,000 in 5 years? That was not the case, not an abandonment. It was a choice, painful, but clear-sighted, and perhaps the only true act of patriotism left to do. While the turmoil in the automotive industry already seemed sufficient, another shock shakes the global economy. This time, it comes from Japan. In a single operation, Toyota disposes of $0.7 trillion in US Treasury bonds. No, this is not a Hollywood heist scenario. It's a financial earthquake, very real. The result is immediate. Bond yields skyrocket. The dollar plunges and the markets collapse like a house of cards. Why such a move from a historical ally of Washington? One answer: tariffs. The United States trade policy has become openly hostile towards Japanese car manufacturers. Toyota, Honda, Nissan, all labeled as foreign threats. Without consultation, without diplomacy, just tariff sledgehammers. So Japan responded coldly, strategically. What looked like a panic sale was actually a surgical retaliation. It wasn't a nervous breakdown, it was a message. Play with global trade and it's the economy that wobbles. The consequences: absolute chaos. Over $5 trillion wiped out on Wall Street in 3 weeks. Interest rates soar, stocks plummet, panic spreads. But behind the headlines, it's the American street that takes the hit. Car prices skyrocket. Imported electric vehicles disappear from dealerships. Inflation makes a strong comeback. Gas, food, electronics, everything becomes more expensive. The tariffs, sold as a shield to save jobs, become economic landmines. Mortgage rates climb, savings dwindle, retirements lose value. And this is not just a simple accident. It's the result of a short-sighted economic strategy, sacrificing stability on the altar of immediate political gains. Japan didn't just sell bonds, it broke a taboo. It ended an implicit relationship, the one that made the dollar the world's default currency. And this move snowballed. China had already distanced itself, as had Russia. But now it's India, Brazil, South Korea, and the United Arab Emirates that are following suit, diversifying their reserves, developing trade in local currencies. Japan, once a loyal ally, is now redirecting its capital towards Asia. It is buying regional bonds, weaving new financial ties, and freeing itself from the dollar. A new economic order is emerging, discreet, but profound. And this time, it's no longer Washington writing the rules. It's an Asian alliance led by Toyota. Washington didn't see it coming. Why? Because it thought Japan would always be docile, always loyal. But this trade war has revealed an unsettling truth. Even the most loyal allies can rebel. And while ties are breaking, America launches a new salvo. This time, it's Beijing that takes a hit with an additional 50% tariff on Chinese products. The shock is immediate. In less than 24 hours, hundreds of billions of dollars evaporate. Wall Street wavers. Is it a defensive maneuver or a desperate attempt to save a declining economy? Because when the two largest economic powers in the world clash, no one is spared. Together, the United States and China account for nearly 40% of the global GDP. In 2024, the American trade deficit with China reaches $295.4 billion. Intellectual property, subsidies, and currencies further exacerbate the conflict. Each new tariff leads to an immediate increase in prices. Phone, sneakers, television, everything increases, sometimes up to 0.6%, not because of demand, but because of policy. The result is a self-inflicted wound. The day the new tariffs come into effect, the Dow Jones drops by 1679 points. Apple loses 9%, Tesla more than 5%. Even Wall takes a hit. It's not just a pullback, it's a nosedive. Investors are fleeing, and when they flee, they run towards safe havens, assets. On April 3, 2025, the yields on 10-year Treasury bonds dropped from 4.3% to 4%. The phenomenon has a name, the boomerang effect. An attack against the enemy that comes back to hit you in the face. But the worst part is the uncertainty, and that's what terrifies the markets more than anything. No one knows what will happen next. Companies are freezing their projects. Consumers stop spending. Confidence evaporates. China, of course, retaliates. Effort. A 34% tariff on almost all American products. Agriculture rate, energy, electronics. Everything is affected. A Chinese official says it bluntly. We are reducing our dependence on the United States. But beware, China is not invincible. Behind the facade, it struggles. Its real estate sector is burdened with over $2,000 billion in debt. Its tech industry is suffocating, deprived of high-end chips, crucial for AI and defense. On the surface, it advances. Behind the scenes, it falters. This conflict is no longer just a simple tariff war. It is a direct threat to the entire global financial order. Meanwhile, American debt continues to climb, $36.2 trillion, and the interest is nearly $892 billion per year, more than the military budget. It's as if America is paying for a Hollywood blockbuster just to settle its credit card bill. Foreign investors are beginning to doubt the dollar. The DXR index, which measures the strength of the greenback, hovers around 102.7. Not yet a crisis. But confidence is wavering, and if it collapses, the global financial system could be rewritten. The irony is that while the economy trembles, a ray of political light emerges. The southern border, long criticized, sees the approval of the administration's immigration policies rise to 28%, a clear jump compared to 2020. A small victory certainly, but a victory nonetheless. Except that this improvement will not withstand runaway inflation. Consumer prices are already rising between 0.4% and 0.6%. And if jobs continue to disappear, no political success will be enough to calm public anger. While Washington plays the escalation card, China opts for the long term. Silently, Beijing is rewriting the rules of global trade. Thanks to its Belt and Road Initiative, it is investing massively in Africa, strengthening its ties with Southeast Asia, Latin America, and more. As a result, between 40 and 45% of Chinese exports now go to developing countries, rather than to the United States. This is no accident. It's a strategy, a way to gradually sever ties with the American market and build a new trade network, where it is no longer Washington setting the rules, but Beijing. And as this new ecosystem emerges, America sees its central role waver. It is no longer alone on stage, and soon it might no longer be the star. Just when we thought the trade war couldn't go any further, the European Union steps in. And it doesn't come empty-handed. A 25% tariff on American products. Immediate impact. An estimated loss of $24 billion. And this is just the beginning. American consumers are the first to be affected. Steel, aluminum, tobacco, poultry, almonds, orange juice. Everyday products see their prices soar. Even if you're not up to date with the news, you feel it on your receipt. And if the United States retaliates with similar tariffs on European products, get ready to see the bill skyrocket. French butter, Italian cheese, increases of 20 to 30% are on the table. As a result, an average American household might have to spend between $1,500 and $2,000 more per year just to stock their cupboards. And that's just the surface. Imported cars become a luxury. If Washington imposes tariffs on European vehicles, the price of a BMW or a Volkswagen could jump from $30,000 to $50,000. A chasm, even for the middle class. This conflict, once perceived as a distant confrontation, now affects millions of American households. Farmers on the front line. Europe buys huge volumes of Californian almonds, Florida orange juice, but with the new tariffs, demand drops. And even if it's not yet visible on the shelves, the supply chain is already shaken. Fewer exports mean fewer local supplies, hence rising prices. And that's not all. Giants like General Motors and Boeing, which depend on European metal, are facing a 10 to 15% increase in their production costs. Less investment, higher prices, and layoffs on the horizon. Remember, in 2019, Ford had warned that the tariffs would cost them $1 billion in profits. Today, it's the same scenario, but on a completely different scale. Trump, now well into his second term, remains inflexible. He asserts that America will not lose this trade war, wielding tariffs as the sacred weapons of the national industry. He even cites those imposed on steel in 2018, which temporarily boosted production by 5%, to justify his strategy. But today, the stakes are much higher. Each new tariff acts like a shockwave. Supply chains are coming apart. Companies are faltering, and Americans are footing the bill. And it's not over. Trump could go even further. Tariffs are just the first act. What comes next could be much more radical. Restrictions on the export of advanced technologies to Europe. Diplomatic pressure on NATO members to obtain political concessions. It's no longer just a trade war. It's a geopolitical chess game, with pieces falling all over the board. But this unpredictability is concerning. CEOs, investors, and small business owners no longer know what to expect. When economic decisions resemble plot twists in political series, it's long-term confidence that collapses. And the world holds its breath, because this conflict is no longer just a duel. United States-European Union. It's a global saga with an expanding cast. Japan and South Korea might also retaliate with their own tariffs to protect their industries. China, already mired in its confrontation with Washington, could tighten the screws further by targeting American agricultural exports. And in this global battle, the losers are not who you might think. The United States might see Europe strike where it hurts, in technology and automobiles. Behind closed doors, Brussels is considering expanding its measures. American cars, but also tech products, iPhones, computers, electronic components could see their prices skyrocket. For giants like Apple or Tesla, this is a serious threat. Europe represents a key market. But if tariffs are imposed, European consumers might turn to other brands. What started as a simple tariff dispute is becoming a battle for the future of American innovation. And it's not the Wall Street giants who bear the cost, but rather the families, the workers, everyday citizens. And this is just the beginning. The world holds its breath. But it does not remain still. While the United States gets bogged down in an endless trade war, other countries are advancing their pieces. The next scene, the European Union could strengthen its trade ties with China or sign new agreements with Japan. Australia and other smaller economies are turning towards Asia, gradually shifting the center of gravity of global trade away from Washington. The final setting, it's a global economy, redrawn. Because this war is no longer just about a few tariffs. It's a complete rewriting of the rules of the game. What was initially just a political tool is now causing a profound shift. Alliances are evolving, supply chains are reorganizing, and the world is learning to live without the United States as the conductor. For decades, America wrote the script for global trade. But today, it is no longer the only director in the play. Other actors are speaking up, other voices are rising, and sometimes they shout louder. The consequences, no one can measure them yet. What is certain is that the curtain has not yet fallen. And as in any great dramatic work, there is no guarantee that the ending will be happy. Now, it's your turn to play. What is your position regarding Trump's tariff policy? Do you think it is doomed to fail? Share your opinion in the comments. See you very soon.